Benin's President Patrice Talon has appeared on television to tell the nation an attempted coup has been foiled. Troops loyal to the president, backed by air support from neighbouring Nigeria, ended the attempted takeover. Benin was plunged into uncertainty when soldiers took control of the state broadcaster and announced they were seizing power. What followed was a tense, chaotic morning marked by gunfire, border closures and rapid government countermeasures.
Early Sunday morning, a small group of soldiers burst onto Benin's TV screens, declaring they had overthrown President Patrice Talon and dissolved all state institutions. Calling themselves the Military Committee for Refoundation, they said they had sealed the borders and suspended the constitution. But within hours, forces loyal to President Talon, seen here in archive footage, moved in and regained control of state media and key zones. On Sunday evening, the president went on TV to address the nation.
I would like to assure you that the situation is completely under control, and therefore I invite you to calmly go about your business starting this very evening. Security and public order will be maintained throughout the national territory.
Gunshots were heard near the presidential palace earlier, triggering alerts by foreign embassies. A government spokesman said about a dozen people were arrested in connection with the coup attempt. The full scope of the plot remains under investigation. The Economic Community of West African States has ordered the immediate deployment of elements of its standby force to Benin.
Right, let's get some analysis now, and we can speak with Christopher Fomunyoh. He is the Senior Associate for Africa and Regional Director at the National Democratic Institute. Great to have you on DW News. So Benin's president says the coup is, quote, under control. West Africa's regional bloc, ECOWAS, has ordered the deployment of its standby force to Benin. What's your assessment of the current situation?
My assessment is that it's totally justifiable to believe what President Talon is saying. He wouldn't have the confidence to be able to go on national TV and give a speech to the nation if he wasn't sure that he was well secure and that the leaders of the coup or the attempted coup were under arrest and under control. So my sense is that normalcy is beginning to return to Benin. And if the regional body ECOWAS wants to send in troops, it's probably to back up the Beninese military itself as it goes through investigating and getting to the bottom of the attempted coup.
Did the attempted coup come as a surprise to you?
Well, it's most unfortunate that in the past 3 or 4 years, images such as this with soldiers bursting in front of national TV have become also commonplace in most of West Africa, a sub-region that for 2 or 3 decades had considerable progress in terms of democratic governance. It's really unfortunate that we're returning back to an era of military coups and counter-coups. So in some ways, it wasn't surprising, but at the same time, we know that Benin has been a lead country with regards to democratization efforts in West Africa, and that Beninese citizens have learned to take their grievances through political processes, through the ballot process, and it was really surprising that something like this should happen 5 months before President Talon's term comes to an end.
Now, President Talon said that the, quote, treachery will not go unpunished. Where do you see things going from here in Benin?
Well, you know, my sense is that now that the military has had the upper hand and President Talon is back in charge, that he's going to find some ways to settle scores. It will be most unfortunate if the situation is handled in a way that further exacerbates tensions within the military. But of course, given that there was even an assault on his residence, he's probably going through a personal trauma himself. And as head of state and chief of the armed forces, commander-in-chief of the armed forces, he's probably going to want to handle this in a way as to avoid a repeat performance in the years ahead. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's 10 measures that are taken, but we'll have to make sure that those are taken with regards to the rule of law, with full respect to the rule of law and the rights of everyone that was involved.
You touched on it before. You were talking about just the region as a whole and how we've seen different situations take place in different countries. How do you see the state of democracy in West Africa?
Well, one must be honest to acknowledge that democracy, we've really seen a backsliding of democracy in the past 5 to 10 years. We've seen that a lot of the aspirations, the rising aspirations of West Africans to be governed justly has not been met by the poor performance of some leaders, even including leaders who were initially democratically elected. So there's a level of frustration within society. And that's why sometimes when these coups happen, citizens are either indifferent or applaud. But I would hasten to say that coups and military juntas are not the way out, because the only way that a military regime hangs on to political power is to trample on the very freedoms and political rights that citizens aspire to. So I think the sub-region is going through a very testing and trying period. My hope is that the vast majority of West Africans want to live in democratic societies, and that ultimately the countries that are not yet under military rule would improve their performance and delivery of citizens services to citizens, and that those that are currently under military regimes will find a way to go through transitions that can bring back democratic civilian rule.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there, but really great to get your insights and analysis there. Christopher Fomunyoh, Senior Associate for Africa and Regional Director at the National Democratic Institute. Thank you very much for joining us on DW.
Thanks for having me.